the beauty to me, there's so much beauty to play, but one of the greatest pieces is that it's such a nonlinear way to enter into wisdom. And the idea is to play in such a way that that you're evoking or evincing a depth from another human being that that knows. And I was thinking, oh, so many of the words that I use are trivialized in our culture. Most things that are feminine tend to be considered immature. But then you know what happens that's so shocking is that we discover, in terms of science, that they're the most effective way to go about things. So often, words like sexuality tends to be seen as inferior to spirituality. I used to joke that, people always say that, spirituality needs to be brought into sexuality, but nobody ever says sexuality needs to be brought into spirituality. And that's where you can see those kind of invisible ideas that we have. And the same is true with play. I suggested to a really strong social activist, oh, well, definitely, we should look at this and we should introduce play into it. And they said, surely you jest. These are serious problems. And there have been many people who have had the quote attributed to them, life is too serious to not play. And there's a truth to the levity. It gets you, well, I would say, or maybe gravity. It gets you either underneath or above to where you can see it from a different perspective rather than within it, where you're tossed and pulled by the various tides. So, the ultimate play is always Bodhicitta. That's what you're riding on. And the ultimate and Bodhicitta being care for the welfare of all beings. And there, in fact, it's not play. It's not play if that's not the underlying intention. And the evoking. And that's really the beauty of it. I think, we talk about the to end suffering, the causes of suffering, and help others get out of suffering. I would also say, I would say it to end tumescence, or to transmute tumescence, the causes of tumescence, and transmute tumescence for others. And there's some suffering, some tumescence that you can't do it yourself. There's absolutely no way that you can take yourself out of control in such a way as to release and convert those various energies. And it takes a very skillful eye. And then here's the thing, though, it takes a lot of trust, right? You're creating a signal, a frequency, a line with another human being. And in a sense, it's almost like a refuge in and of itself, although it doesn't feel like it when you're in it. It can feel tossed and turned and rough and intense, but you're creating this signal. And the aim is to have an unbroken signal, and a place where, no matter what, you can come back to. You can reveal yourself, and you can reveal another, and then you can celebrate within that location the relief of seeing who you felt was in there, and the joy at discovering with them who they are, because that's the thrill, right? And so there's this idea, and I want to make this part really clear. I think I'll talk about it when I get into my little lists, but there's this idea that play is, oh, well, she was just playing. That's like saying, oh, well, I just encountered God. It's not, it's like, oh, well, I just encountered the highest form of human expression. And that person was just engaging in the highest form of human expression, the deepest form of vulnerability, the deepest form of intimacy. And to genuinely play and to play well is absolutely the deepest form of intimacy that exists, because you're agreeing to have your attention, both direct and ambient attention, on another human being 24 hours a day. You're agreeing to have that nervous system inside of your nervous system. Now, that sounds wackadoodle to most people. Oh, you can't feel people across the world. I don't agree. I think it's really just it's actually I don't like the word primitive, but a really fundamental aspect of the human nervous system. So general theory of love talks about limbic connection. This science came out. I just found this. I had never found this. In 2013, the notion, this is so cool, of brain-to-brain interface was introduced in a pioneering work reporting that a brain-machine interface can be applied to share real-time sensory motor information between the brains of two rodents. So they can have they're tracking, they can have the same brain signatures, performing a cognitive task. Soon after, other works reported similar findings, such as the sharing of hippocampus representations between two rodents, the transmission of visual information between a human and a rodent, and the transmission of motor information between two humans. Now, there are some of us who are just relieved that finally, hokey science is catching up with what we've always known, but I try to back these things with science. The Dalai Lama said, if science disagrees, then Buddhism will bow, and I feel the same way, although I don't feel science is quite caught up to a lot of the things that we know intuitively. So the nature of this is fundamentally the end game of the game that is the game is to have all human nervous systems connected, and to be able to send and receive in such a way that exquisite care and attention is put on another human being, so that what wants to emerge can emerge.